Okay, Tony Mormino with HVACTV. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode. I've got a couple of high value guests here today. I've got Lenny with Copeland Compressors, may have heard of Copeland. And then I've got Chris with NC3 Training. We're going to talk a little bit about what they do. And the topics for today, we're going to talk about HVACR in general, in terms of education. We're going to talk about technical shortage. And then we're going to talk about the June, which is Tech Appreciation Month, or is it Tech Appreciation Day, June 22nd? I'm not sure. Maybe one of you guys can clarify that. But thank you guys for joining us. Lenny, why don't you do a quick intro, and then we'll get right into it.
All right, my name's Lenny. I'm with Copeland, manufacturer of compressors and multiple other different brands that are under the HVAC umbrella, but specifically I'm under the compression side, and I manage our contractor services department, which also involves our training and educational services side of things.
Excellent. You sound like a busy man. Got a few compressors out in the field. I've seen a couple of them. Okay, so Chris, why don't you do a quick intro?
Yeah. Hey, good morning. My name is Chris Harris. I am NC3 Senior Program Manager for all things HVAC and refrigeration. So that includes Training, Thermo King, and obviously Copeland as well. So I work, I'm sort of the go-between industry and education to make sure we get everything done.
Great. So you run like a train the trainer program.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. NC3, the goal with NC3 and Copeland, for example, is to connect industry and education to make sure we're sort of producing the best educational curriculum that we can produce. So it's not just something that NC3 throws together and Copeland rubber stamps and we send out everywhere. No, it's something that we spend a lot of time together with Copeland, with their educational services department to create this curriculum. Then we actually invite instructors to our train-the-trainer events, teach them how to teach the curriculum. Teachers are master instructors, so they're getting the best instruction possible. So we send that curriculum, once those instructors have earned those 3 certifications, we send them back to their school with the curriculum, testing, student manuals, lab exercises, all that kind of stuff. So it's something that we do all day, every day, and it's something that's free to our students.
And something that's really needed in the industry as far as I could tell, especially over the last 25 years. So we'll get more into that education part of it, because that's something we do a lot of. And, HVAC TV, our tagline is to educate and empower the HVAC community. So some of the programs we do, some of the shows we do are very technical. And then every once in a while, we get the opportunity to talk more about education and the empowerment part of it, which is, where could you go to get training if you're listening to this, or where could you send your employees to get training? So there's going to be a lot of good information here, I'm sure. But before we get into that, Lenny, you and I were talking beforehand. I've been in the industry since 97. So I don't know how many years that is. A lot of years, 25, 28 years. And Copeland scrolls obviously are almost every air conditioner we open has a Copeland scroll compressor in it. And I don't know much about Copeland as a company, to be honest with you. I'm not a service tech, first of all. I know the basics of compressors. I know the difference between the VFD compressor and the digital scroll and things like that. But from a company standpoint, can you give me and the listeners an overview of the company, how it started and the structure of it, et cetera?
Absolutely. So a little over 100 years ago, Copeland started as a compressor manufacturer. We were working with the older style semi-hermetics, the discus compressors. And then around 1986 was when we actually started working on the scroll compressor. That was when we ended up getting some backing with Emerson at that time and ended up doing a joint venture with them. And 1987 was when the first scroll compressors started hitting the market. We went from having a little over 30 moving parts in a compressor down to 7. So the reliability and the robustness of the compressor really started to become showcased at that point. So that's why it really became that workhorse in the industry at that point. So from 1987 until now, that's kind of where we've been going. Multiple different iterations. We're on our 8th generation of compressors right now, moving into the A2L side of things. And different modulations have come along the way, whether it be a mechanical modulation or run by something else, something electronic, more like a VFD. But same typical technology on the inside to do the core work. And then just about 2 years ago, Copeland went as a standalone company. We got some financial backing from Blackstone. We moved away from the Emerson portfolio and now have moved on our own and continue to be one of the leaders in the industry on the compression side of things.
Yeah, that's funny. You and I were also talking, I don't know, a few months ago about how, I work for Air Control Concepts, which is backed by Blackstone as well. So we're kind of Blackstone brothers in the industry, if you will. And that's kind of cool too. But you mentioned, so Copeland, was that a person? Is that a person's name?
That was the company here in Sydney, Ohio, is where it all got started. And then it remained as the Copeland name for up until, 1987, when we had the other backing there and you started to see Emerson's name on the logo, but there was still also the Copeland logo on there. And then now it's just gone back to strictly the Copeland brand name.
Got it.
So some of our other divisions, correct. And some of our other divisions like White Rogers and Dixell Controls and stuff, that all falls under the Copeland umbrella now. So you're going to start to see that Copeland name a little bit more broadly across the board now.
Excellent. Yeah. So it's not an Emerson compressor anymore. We're calling it Emerson for a while. Emerson Copeland Scrolls or Emerson Digital Compressor, but it's just Copeland now. Got it. So that hopefully that'll clear up some things. And I don't want to make this an A2L podcast. I'm so sick of talking about A2Ls, and I'm sure everybody's sick of listening to it. But I do want to clarify, maybe you can clarify for us, the A2L Copeland scroll, is it different than the 410A scroll?
So we have, with the way the industry has gone, we've had to do multiple different iterations here. The 410A compressor is different than a A2L compressor. Everything has been optimized based on whatever refrigerant is in there. So we do even have different compressors for different A2Ls. So even between, if we're talking AC, we're looking at a different compressor for R32 versus 454B. The scroll sets have been optimized to make sure that we're getting that UL certification. Discharge temperatures are a little different, so we've even had to change the oil viscosity between the two different refrigerants in there. So when it comes pre-charged, it's going to be ready to go, but it is going to be specific to a specific refrigerant.
Got it. So don't take a 410A compressor and put it in an A2L machine, is what I'm hearing.
Correct.
Probably won't result in good results anyway. So, okay. People always ask me, like, if I put 410A in an A2L machine, will it work? I said, well, it might, but you're going to avoid the UL, you're going to avoid the warranty. You could hurt somebody and you could lose your business. So, go with that. That's kind of what I tell them. So anyway, so thanks for the rundown on Copeland. We'll get into a little more of the education, what Copeland's doing on that, because I'm sure a lot of folks listening are interested in that. But let's switch gears over to Chris. Chris, tell us a little bit about, so in my experience in the HVAC industry, when I started, I was really fortunate in that I started working for a big manufacturer and we did 6 months of training. Like we did psychometrics for 3 months and then products for 3 months. Then we went out in the field and we basically were apprentices on the sales side, if there is such a thing, for a year before we even talked to customers. So we had a year and a half of training. I'm not sure that happens a lot anymore. We at our companies, at our operating companies, we do a good job of trying to train the sales guys, but the field training is really lacking. And then there's the technician shortage, which we could talk about in a minute. What are you seeing in the industry in terms of training in general for, you could focus on engineers, technicians, sales guys, or whatever. And what are we doing to help with that?
I think we sort of listen to Copeland first because they're one of our industry partners, and then Copeland listens to the industry. So it filters through that way. Every state is different, which is a good thing, but it's also a little bit of a challenging thing when it comes to getting on state lists of approval and things like that. But at the end of the day, you go to a state like Florida, that really, really invests in a 5-year apprenticeship program, which starts on the education side and then leads into, actual in the field work. The curriculum that we've developed with Copeland is built to be flexible. It's built to be taught in secondary and post-secondary schools. So community colleges, tech schools, vocational schools is what they used to be called. We created that with the flexibility of it being sort of a foundational piece where you can build around this curriculum, or it's built to be as flexible as to be integrated into an existing program. So either way, we developed three certifications with them. That starts as sort of a refrigeration 101, right?
Mm-hmm.
System fundamentals. So we go through the little things like components, superheat and subcooling, and all of those things, refrigerants, all that. So literally a 101 style class. So anyone who's not familiar with the industry can kind of walk in with a little bit of basic knowledge and still earn that certification. From there, we move on to troubleshooting, which is it's more for technicians in the field. And it's sort of built around Copeland's mobile app that is, I don't know if you guys use it or if you've seen it, but the updates that were made around the beginning of the year are amazing. They've integrated AI into it now. So that app, I think Lenny can correct me if I'm wrong, but almost combined 5 or 6 different apps into one. So now a technician in the field doesn't have to go to a big binder full of information, find the nearest wholesaler, look up parts or things like that. They can do all from their tablet or from their cell phone. So it makes things easier on the technician, which, the downstream impact of that is they're being more efficient with the work. Customers aren't paying as much. They're happier. They can do more jobs, whatever that situation may be. So the troubleshooting certification really does help put those things into practice. And the third certification is where we get to the meat and potatoes of things, which is operations and maintenance, where we go through different kinds of compressors and take a really structured function look at how those compressors work, how to service them, how to spot sort of all the things that could go wrong with them and how to maintain them. So what we're trying to do is, when we started this a few years, it was 3 years now, Lenny, going on 4 years.
Going on 4 years now.
Well, then we were talking about the fact that Copeland compressors, there's some 200 million installations worldwide or something like that, and they occupy a large portion, 80 or 85% of the compressor world. On the residential and commercial side have been installed there. So at some point, a tech in the field is going to see a Copeland compressor, if not consistently see Copeland compressors. So that's sort of the impetus of this curriculum. But it was also, which we'll talk about soon, is to address that tech shortage, because we're really seeing a huge shortage in the industry as people age out. They're getting into something different, just things like that. So Copeland, and we'll probably talk about more about that, but Copeland's not trying to train Copeland and Copeland techs. They just want to maintain that level of education, the best we can possibly provide to techs going into the field. Not necessarily Copeland techs. They could go work for Copeland, but they could also go work for a general contractor. They can start their own business. So the possibilities are always there. And it starts with the flexibility of the curriculum itself. So that's one of the things I'm the most proud of that we've done over the last 3 years with that curriculum.
I love it. And it's funny because I've had other guests on the podcast and we talk about, our HVACTV we don't charge anything. It's not a profit center. We do that to give back to the community because, we want to give back, first of all, but we want to grow our brand. Like, it's a great way to grow your brand. So it's so funny that the way to grow is to give back, right? Because you're giving this training, which is through community colleges and other avenues, which, you have to pay for it, but it's not like you're paying $10,000 to go get, I'm assuming, to go get certified. So you're getting great value, and then you're giving back, and it's probably not a big profit center for you all, but you're building your brand like Copeland. So the point of, I guess, what I'm trying to say is, like, if you're listening to this, it's not really a cost to give back. It's an investment to give back. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think, and Lenny will probably.
That's exactly
one of the things that we talk about internally is Copeland. Sorry, Lenny, I didn't mean to step on you. But one of the things we talk about is
you're fine.
The relationship that Copeland and NC3 have is just that, it's an investment, because we don't charge our schools for this curriculum. We do just hand it to them.
So the schools get it at no cost.
Right.
Right.
There's Copeland developed their own in-house trainer. That exists, and schools have to buy that because the curriculum is built around it. But at the end of the day, it's built into school's curriculum. So you might have a 2-year Associates of Science program that might cost a student $3,000 total, but the cost of those 3 certifications, because they're free, it doesn't impact their total cost of tuition. So it's like you said, it is an investment.
Lenny, what do you think about that?
Absolutely. That's kind of how this all got started. Was we travel around the country, go to different trade shows, hear the voice of the contractor, and find out what one of the greatest concerns was the skilled gap of how many technicians there are out there, how many are retiring, finding out that shortage, and then seeing when students are coming out of school, what skills they have, what skills they're missing. So we've ended up looking at it and saying, well, our educational services team is traveling around the country right now doing that with technicians that are out in the field. Why don't we, find somebody that we can partner with and be able to get that before they're coming out into the field? So we looked at it as a long-term investment of just trying to be an industry steward, giving back to the industry. using the information that we already have to be able to create this curriculum. We ended up partnering up with NC3 because they do have such a wide range of tech schools that they currently work with. So this was the fastest and easiest way for us to give back to the industry, to be able to hit as many students as we possibly could. So that's kind of just how this all came about moving forward. Like Chris said, our first two curriculum, it's basically system fundamentals. Inside there, it is a very general thing of how each of the components work together. There's no branding on there saying that, hey, this is what's going on with Copeland. This is just what's going on in the system. It's not until the last one that we do a little bit deeper dive into some of the compression technologies and the troubleshooting and how it might affect the compressor further on down the line.
I love it. You're speaking my language, man. You and I get along good, Lenny. You too, Chris.
Thanks for throwing that in there. Appreciate it.
Yeah. All three of us for sure. But cool. All right. So we talked about the technician shortage, right? Like we've done a bunch of podcasts on this as well. It's a major deal. So my experience in the industry, like I said, I started in '97. I got introduced into this industry through my dad. He was a residential HVAC installer. I wanted to go follow in his footsteps. My dad was old school. He's like, hey man, you got a chance to go to college. We grew up poor. This was my dad talking about his growing up. You're going to college. I'm like, I don't want to go to school. I hated school. Like I hated high school. I wasn't a good student. I didn't enjoy it. And then he invited me to work with him for a summer in Florida, installing air conditioners in the attics of Florida, which are, in the summer, I don't know, 485 degrees up there. I don't know how hot they are, but it's freaking brutal. And I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll give this college thing a try. But I did like a lot of working with my hands and that part of working in the field. So I ended up going the college route is my point there. I think there is still a little bit of a stigma with the trades in terms of the trades versus college, right? So let's have that conversation. I'll share my experience. So I say, hey, if you go to college, great, but don't not try the trades because of some stigma you have in your mind. What are people going to think if I do this? I mean, I know guys who own plumbing businesses. They love it. They got more money than I do. They do very well financially, and they enjoy it, right? Like that's the thing. Like, do you enjoy what you're doing? Are you self-aware with what you want to do? And I always say, buy it before you try it. Go to some college courses, check it out, and I'm a big fan of looking at the ROI of a college degree, right? If you got a full ride and someone's going to pay for all of it and you want to go have fun for a couple of years, great. If you're going to graduate with the degree that's going to pay minimal amount and you're got six figures in debt, you might want to look at that. Is that really a good career path for you in the long run? In my personal life too, my son, he is 18. He was 18 when he started working with me in the marketing side of the business. And I would take him to the factories and we do the recordings and stuff like that. And I would show him, look, here's what the sales guys do. Here's what the manufacturers do. Here's what the technicians do. And just expose them to everything. And he really gravitated towards the technicians. So he's been working for our company as a technician for 6 months as an apprentice. So he loves it. He left this morning. He was getting in the truck. I said, man, I kind of want to go hang out with you today. It looks like a lot of fun, like getting out in the field and getting out of the office. Nothing against you guys. I mean, you guys are awesome, right? Anyway, so that's a lot of bloviating about, the shortage. So my take is give it a try. If it's something you think you're interested in, get past the whole stigma of the blue collar working with your hand things and go try it. You may hate it. You may love it. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Chris, what's your thoughts on that?
Pretty much echoing what you said. I mean, Lenny and I actually talk about this a lot, and I talk about this a lot when we talk to administrators or people who are just unfamiliar with what NC3 does and how that relationship with Copeland works. But you're right. There used to be that stigma of, VOTEC or community college or technical schools being, oh, that's where the burnouts go. That's where the gearheads go. You don't want to go there. You want to go to college and get a 4-year degree. I think as technology has progressed, we've created enough technology, but we've not trained enough people to actually work on that technology. So now we're seeing this big shortage of technicians in multiple fields, but especially in the HVAC and refrigeration world. So at the end of the day, we're sort of chasing that whole thing. So you're right. The stigma has changed because some people they would rather be outside doing something with their hands. I mean, I went to college, got an undergraduate degree, first grown-up job out of college, I made like $20,000 a year. Like that's what my degree got me. And some of these guys that are leaving, after a 2-year program at a community college or a technical school, they're making a lot of really good money. twice as much as I'm making. And I think that national average, we can talk about that later, has gone up considerably just since Copeland and NC3 have started working together. So the benefits are there coming in sort of tenfold. And now we've started to look at sort of the downstream impact of that. These guys are making enough money where they're not having to utilize, social programs to help feed their kids or SNAP or something like that. They're buying houses, they're starting businesses, they're contributing to the local economy from a tax base up. So there's a lot that goes into just that. So when you say, VOTEC or technical college, I'm all for it. I think more people should be for it. And things today, look, Tony, we work with Festo, I'm not sure if you know what Festo is, but more commuter dynamics and things like that. We have 8th graders getting certified in hydraulics and things like that through Festo's program. For example, we're in a high school setting at West Mech in Phoenix, where high schoolers are getting these certifications through Copeland. So they're going into their community college setting with these certifications already in their pocket. So the value there, like there's an inherent value, but then, like you said, there's a return on investment, which to us, techs walking into the economy there with these certifications are going to make an average of about $12,000 more a year. And that's just without overtime.
Mm-hmm.
The shortage that we have now, good luck trying to not work without overtime.
Right.
So,
and you don't have the debt associated with
exactly.
and even the other paths.
Minimal. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lenny, what do you think about all that?
I agree with what you said. I also went the college route. It was one of those things that I went to a college prep school, and we didn't even talk about the vocational side of things. But I always, after college, graduated towards the more technical jobs. I enjoyed going out to job sites, working with my hands as much as possible. So that's really how I got onto this side of things, was the opportunities that weren't presented to myself earlier on. I want to make sure that I'm doing what I can to help promote that now.
That's good stuff.
I think you also see that in the curriculum we develop too, because there's obviously a classroom component of it, but it's also, we spend a lot of time in the lab working on those Copeland trainers. So you get a chance to see what you're learning in the classroom in real life and utilize what you've just learned in that lecture, and you put it into practice in the lab right then and there. So you get to make that connection really, really quickly. So it's not you spend 3 weeks going through lectures and 2 days in the lab. It's kind of the opposite. We spend a good bit of way more time in the lab than we do in the classroom.
I love it. So it's hands-on.
That hands-on is an understatement. I mean, you get intimate with these trainers.
So the refrigeration 101, and then the troubleshooting, and then the operation and maintenance. Is that correct?
Yep.
Those are the 3 different types of courses. How does someone find out? So I'm in Asheville, North Carolina. How do I find out if these are available here, or if someone's in Chicago or wherever they happen to be?
I mean, the easy answer is to go to our website. I mean, that's honestly NC3.net, where you'll find my name, where you'll see me as the program manager for all these programs. You would call me and I would say, Asheville, dude, we got schools at Pitt Community College. We got Goldsboro. We got Wayne Community College. We got plenty of options for you. Those classes are taught, however they decide to teach them. One of the things that I like to tell my instructors and my administrators is, we're never going to dictate how you implement the program. Like we just want to give you the best possible curriculum, let you implement as you see fit. So for our training events, our instructors come in, it's a 5-day training event, and they basically learn what they end up teaching in maybe 3 semesters. So it's an intensive sort of process where we go through things with our instructors. But yeah, just give me a call. I'll give you the rundown on the whole country if you want.
Straight from the source. Call the man himself.
Well, there you go.
So the NC3.net, did I get that right?
Yeah.
NC3.net. Okay. Got it.
The other spot would be if you go to Copeland.com and go to educator resources. There's some sample smaller curriculums there, but there's also contact information there where we can get you in touch with the schools that we are currently working with, and ultimately networking through Chris and getting that ball rolling on that side of it also. Got it.
Those are 2 great resources. So NC3.net, and I'll put, if you're listening to this podcast and driving, I will put this in the show notes, or if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll put it in the description. And then we've got Copeland.com to go check that out. And then you mentioned the mobile app, and I've got it pulled up here, but it looks like I haven't done a good job of registering for it. I thought I had. Maybe it was someone else's podcast. Maybe it was someone else's app, but I'm going to go ahead and do that after this. What's in the app, and where do people get that? So the app is available on either the Apple Store, Google Downloads.
or we actually have a desktop version of it also if you're somebody that's more at your computer. Sometimes that's a lot more convenient, but it basically has 35 years worth of compressor data all compiled into that app. So any of our technical bulletins, any of our engineering bulletins, any of our product information, all that's available in the app. You can actually scan just a QR code or barcode on the compressor, be able to pull up any of the data that's on there, your pressure temperature charts. You can actually type in your gauge readings on the app, and you can actually see in real time, is my compressor working in the operating range that it should be, or is it outside the envelope, which at that point, it's going to help steer you to where I should be looking in the system and trying to figure out what's going on, whether it's undercharged, if I have a clog somewhere, dirty coils, whatever the case may be. It's going to help guide you there. It's going to give you the correct electrical information that should be going on with that system and that compressor. Not only that, we talked a little bit about the modulation before, but it's also going to let you know if it is a two-stage one, what it should be also running at the part load capacity, not just full load. Ultimately, if there's something wrong with the compressor, it'll actually be able to tell you in real time where you can buy that compressor locally. We work very extensively with our network of wholesalers to be able to update that app all the time, to be able to say, okay, this is where the compressors are available at. You can click the where to buy function on there. Trying to think, there's trainings on there also. There's a whole support section where you can do go and actually watch videos on what's going on in technology. And then we also do have our new Scout AI function on there where you can actually type in questions of what's going on with the system. And it's going to sift through all that information that we have and put it into that app and be able to pull out the information that's correct for you. It's not scouring the web. It's just going to be going through all Copeland information there and being able to pull up the correct information based on what you ask.
Well, that sounds amazing. And you just gave me my TikTok post for this afternoon just to go through and introduce that app. And I use stuff like that all the time. Hey, have you seen this tool on the Copeland, blah, 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 or whatever the app is I'm promoting. So that's good. That's good information. So that's great. And one of the things that popped in my head when you were talking about that, I was thinking about, well, I'll post this on social media. If you're listening and want to see the life of a technician, social media, just type in HVAC tech or air conditioning tech, and you'll see, there's residential guys and there's commercial guys. Look at what they do, and then you'll see, oh, that looks like something I want to investigate. So that's another way I think if people want to learn and investigate the trades is to kind of see behind the scenes as to what they do. And maybe it's your thing, maybe it's not. You'll find out, if you start looking at it. So we've got the two websites. We've got the Copeland app. Any other resources you could think of? Your YouTube channel. Copeland, you have a YouTube channel.
Correct. We have a Copeland YouTube channel. We do a lot of posts on LinkedIn of what's going on in the industry, a lot of the technical information that's coming out when new products are coming out. Trying to think what other resources there are.
It's all good stuff. Your website too has a ton of resources on it. I've plowed through that a few times. It's so much. It's a lot of information. It's really good stuff. So you can check it out there. Chris, any last words on where people could find resources? Just give you a call. You said just give you a call. So all you gotta do is call you.
Yeah, by all means, publish my phone number. I love that. It's already on the website, so it doesn't really matter. Our website's going to be the best place to go because you're going to be able to see all of our industry partners. I mean, we work with Copeland, Thermo King, Train, Snap-on, Lincoln Electric for welding, Festo, Apple. I mean, we have a lot of industry partners that we work with, so it's not we're all over the place as far as career and technical education goes. But our website is sort of that clearinghouse for that information. My contact information is on there, as well as the contact information for all of our other program managers. Links to our socials. I'm not a big social media person, so I know they're there. I don't really check in with them, but it's the social media stuff is really, you can go and have an idea of what our trainer looks like on a weekly basis. Or we just had our National Signing Day event a few weeks ago, or I guess it's about a month ago now. Man, time flies. National Signing Day is kind of built around the sports world, college sports world, where kids sign their national letter of intent. Same thing with our National Signing Day. I think we had over 100 schools participate, where kids sort of commit to their CTE programs at their respective schools. You can see the rebroadcast because a lot of schools broadcast that through their website, so you can see those. It's just the website is it's the easiest place to go it's like one-stop shopping for all things NC3.
Got it. And a question popped in my head when you were explaining that. Is the Train the Trainer program open to individual businesses or just schools, or how does that work? If someone's listening and saying, "Oh, I'd like to be open up a training place in my area."
So ideally, we work through our member schools.
Got it.
That's the way that we try and do things, because the schools are going to. It's open to students basically, right? But if you call me, then I can kind of direct you as next steps. Like, I know a lot of people are trying to get in transport refrigeration now, and Thermo King, which is a part of Trade Technologies, they have Thermo King University, which they do things. Copeland has all of their training stuff. So Jeff is on the road more days than he can count. So he's all over the country training people. So if I don't have an answer for you, I can reach out to Lenny with a quick phone call, because that's the kind of access that I have. Not only is that the access that I have, that's the access that our instructors have too, right to Lenny, or right to Jeff Coopert, who's their internal training guy. So it's just, that's one of the benefits of being NC3. But I said all that to say it's for our college students, our post-secondary and secondary students, ideally.
That sounds great. I love it. Okay. Tech Appreciation Month or Tech Appreciation Day? Someone help me with that. What's coming up?
So nationally, it is Tech Appreciation Day, but we like to make sure that we're celebrating it all month.
In the month of June.
We don't think it should just be a single day. This is something that we want to promote all month long leading up to Tech Appreciation Day.
Yeah, I really appreciate what techs do, because I see them in the field all the time, and it's a hard job because it's easy to sit back here at a desk and answer phone calls, but when you're on a job and there's a problem, and you're not walking into a job site all the time and people are like, "Hey, my friend's here. Good to see you." It's like, man, this thing, blah, 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 blah. And then there's some choice words typically. And it's, and I get it. People are frustrated, when the air conditioning's down. If you're a building supervisor and it's a hospital, it's a major deal. Like, you got to get this stuff going. You could have people going into surgery. So, the technicians put up a lot more than just, the physical aspects of the job and trying to keep up with the technical aspects. They have a stress on them that I don't think I could really understand. So for me, I have a deep appreciation. So if you're listening to this and you're a technician, thank you for what you do, because you kind of keep us doing it. I do a lot of posts. Like, one time I said something on a podcast. I was a guest on a podcast, and I was like, what we do is important in this industry. And I went on this rant about how, why I felt that way. And a lot of people reacted to that. So often I post, like, if you're an HVAC, what you do is important. Like, it's a big deal. You could be saving someone's life. You could be in charge of a system that somebody is investing in for a restaurant, and they've got all their savings tied up in it. I mean, it's a big deal. It's a big responsibility. And I know sometimes back when I was a salesperson, I would walk into a chiller plant of a big hospital, and I'd sold the chillers, like maybe a couple of, 2,000 ton centrifugal chillers. And I'm looking around going, man, they trusted me to sell. This is like a grown-up's job. This is like a big deal. And it doesn't really hit you on the computer, but when you walk in, and then you have the technicians who have to take care of that. So, that's my little rant about how I think we're all important in the industry. Technicians are on the front lines. They're in it day to day. They do have the physical aspect of it. Sometimes they got to work on weekends and get called out on weekends. I can't even comprehend that. Like, that would be very stressful for me to be on a call on a weekend. But thank you for what you do. Lenny, Chris, you want to jump in on that and say anything about that?
No, I would just say one of the things.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Lenny. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, absolutely. We appreciate everything the techs do. This industry, it relies on everybody. We can't do what we're doing here if we didn't have the technicians out in the field. We absolutely need the voice of the technicians out in the field also to be able to find out what's going on, what they're seeing day to day. How do we get the improvements to make their job easier? So we look at it as a full circle to be able to do what we're doing on this engineering and development side of it, to make sure that we're able to work with the technicians. We absolutely need them. And once again, another thing that we're doing as a thank you to the technicians is we do have a large giveaway this year where we're giving away A2L compliant pumps, vacuums, new gauge set. So that way, one lucky technician is going to be able to actually go home with some of that new technology. And it's very nice. One of the things that Chris and I are going to be at the end of the month is going to be Skills USA. So this kind of all wraps into that tech appreciation, going back to, full circle from the current technicians, thanking them for everything they're doing. And then going to be at Skills USA, giving back as judges, working the booths, talking to everybody about HVAC and giving back to that next generation contractor that's going to be coming out there and that next generation technician.
All right. So before we go to Chris, let me ask you about the giveaway. How do people get information about that? Because I know a lot of people are like, hey, what's up with this giveaway?
So we're going to have links to that on all of the Copeland socials. I'm sure we're going to provide that to you, so that way we can have you link that to this podcast also.
Great.
But pretty much anywhere that you're going to be seeing any Copeland information, we're going to have that QR code where you're going to be able to sign up for that giveaway.
I love it. And you mentioned Skills USA. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Correct. So that's going to be the national competition for pretty much any trade program. It's going to be down in Atlanta, Georgia. So this is going to be your state winners are going to be showing up. A lot of the industry partners are showing up with their training equipment for students to compete on a national level and get awarded with kind of proven who's the best right now. So it's nice to see what skills these students are coming out of trade school with. Getting ready to go out in the field.
Well, that sounds, I'm already packing up my camera and like looking at getting a ticket and thinking about going down there because that's only a couple hours from here. So we'll talk about more of that after the show, but that sounds really exciting. That sounds like a lot of fun. And I have to say too, a lot of times you'd mentioned, the techs kind of keep us real with what's happening in the industry because, I have a marketing view of things and a sales guy view of things. And often I'll post something and the text will remind me, hey, that's not how it really works. Or they'll give me a little smackdown and I'm cool with that. I'm like, well, thanks. I didn't know that. I'm just reading what I know here. I don't know. I'm not in the field as much as I used to be. So I'm definitely getting out of touch. But anyway, all right. Thank you, Lenny. That was a great rundown. Chris, what do you say about tech appreciation?
One of the things that I would just say, sort of echoing some of the sentiments you had, is the techs in the field in a lot of ways can be responsible for a lot of really important things like you were talking about. Like they could go to a home with a new mom and a newborn baby that's going to be extremely sensitive to overheating and things like that. So they could possibly save a baby's life. They can save the entire frozen food section at a grocery store, which is going to mean that grocery store is going to have to raise prices, all these things that downstream things. So when we're talking to administrators about, how do we market HVAC and refrigeration to our students? Because it's not the most glamorous thing in the world, right? It's not. But if you stop and think about it, sort of zoom out a bit, it's like you're saying, there's some of the most important people that work on a day-to-day basis when it comes to supply chain issues, when it comes to just regular things that are going on in the grocery stores or in homes or in hospitals, in retirement homes, things like that. So that's when when I talk to administrators, which I do on a regular basis because they're not as tied in as instructors might be. That's how we sort of make that connection. So one of the things I would always say is HVAC refrigeration technicians are way, way, way more important than people give them credit for. So yeah. That's just the bottom line. I'll just leave it right there.
I love it. Very good stuff. And I was on a refrigeration podcast the other day, which is a gentleman you probably know, the refrigeration mentor. And we were talking about this. I was like, what's this R after HVAC? What are you sneaking in this R? What's that R all about? I was just teasing him, right? Because I'm on the HVAC side. I don't deal with the refrigeration side. And he goes, you know what, Tony? You can survive without air conditioning. Refrigeration, we're not going to survive. Like if you don't have refrigeration. So it's more important than air conditioning. I'm like, oh, I never thought of that. He was just giving me a hard time, but I'm saying that as a shout out to the refrigeration folks, which I don't know much about that industry, but I do know it's extremely important because without that, and we had, in Asheville here, we had this huge biblical flood about 6 months ago and everything shut down for a couple of months. Like the grocery stores were back up a little bit before that, but you see real quick how important this stuff is when those kind of things happen. So anyway, Chris, Lenny, thank you so much for joining us. And we appreciate your time. We come back sometime and do this.
Anytime.
Awesome. Thank you, Lenny.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
And thank you if you're listening. If you're watching this on the YouTube channel or if you're listening to this on the podcast, we so appreciate you. Thank you for your support. Check out the show notes. We'll put some information in there and all the great resources here today. And thank you so much.